I set down my fork and tried to ignore the knot of anxiety in my stomach. Dinner was almost over. We'd gotten through the worst of it, the awkward small talk, the strained compliments, the questions about Jessica's life that she'd deflected with vague answers and that calculating smile. Across the table, my twin sister took another sip of the expensive Bordeaux Cameron had opened. Her platinum blonde hair, a shade she'd worn religiously since she was 14, swearing she'd never be dull brown again, fell in glossy waves past her shoulders, catching the light from the chandelier. She looked different than she had 3 months ago, better. The designer dress she wore was easily $3,000, her makeup flawless, diamond earrings glittering. Where had she gotten the money for all this? 3 months ago, when we'd asked her to leave, she'd been broke and desperate. That was delicious, Jasmine, Jessica said, dabbing her lips with her napkin. You always were the better cook. I forced a smile. Thanks. Cameron's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. Even after 2 years of marriage, the sight of him still made my heart skip. But tonight, there was tension in his jaw, wariness in his warm brown eyes. He never liked Jessica, never trusted her, and he'd been right about everything. So, I said carefully, you're looking well. Things must be going better. Oh, much better. Jessica set down her wineglass, and something in her expression shifted. That smile I knew too well, the one that meant she had a secret, and it was going to hurt me. I've been figuring things out. Getting my life together. That's good. Are you working? A slight pause. I'm in between opportunities right now. But something's about to come through. Something big, actually. Cameron's fingers tightened around mine. What kind of opportunity? Oh, you'll see, soon. Jessica's smile widened. Actually, that's kind of why I wanted to come tonight. To share some news. My chest tightened. News? Jessica folded her hands on the table, theatrical and deliberate. She was enjoying this. I'm pregnant. The word hit me like a physical blow, pregnant. The word I'd been desperate to hear about myself, the word that had been stolen from me 3 months ago in a hospital bathroom, blood and grief and the doctor saying stress can be a factor. Congratulations, Cameron said, his voice flat, barely masking his disinterest. Congratulations to you too, Cameron. Jessica's eyes locked on him, glittering with malice. It's yours. The room tilted. I heard Cameron's sharp intake of breath, felt his hand go rigid in mine. That's impossible, Cameron said, his voice low and dangerous. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. I would never. He looked at Jessica with pure disgust. I would never touch you, Jessica. The fact that you would even suggest. Wouldn't you? Jessica stood slowly, gracefully, like an actress taking center stage. Her hand reached up to her hair, fingers curling into those platinum blonde waves she'd worn for 18 years. And then she pulled. The blonde hair came off in her hand. A wig. Underneath, her hair was auburn, cut in a sleek bob that just brushed her shoulders. My hair. My exact hair. My heart stopped. My breath stopped. Everything stopped. You had no problem touching me when I looked like this, Cameron. Not no. No, 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 no. But I saw it in Cameron's eyes, the horrible realization. The memory clicking into place. That night 8 weeks ago when I'd been in Boston for a conference. When I'd come home and he'd seemed confused, mentioned something about me coming home early, but I'd brushed it off because I'd been exhausted and it hadn't made sense. Oh my God, Cameron whispered, his voice broken. Jessica laughed, a bright, terrible sound. 8 weeks ago, Cameron, remember? You thought Jasmine came home early from her conference. She tossed the blonde wig onto our table like she was discarding a mask. But it wasn't Jasmine. It was me. I couldn't breathe. My hands gripped the table edge. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. Jessica reached into her designer purse and pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the table toward Cameron. That's from my lawyer. I'm 10 weeks along. I'll be needing $50,000 a month for prenatal care, living expenses, and preparation for the baby. Plus a suitable apartment in a good neighborhood. The letter outlines everything. Her smile was victorious. After all, you're a billionaire, Cameron. You can afford to take care of your child. And I'm sure you'll want to do the right thing. She picked up her wine glass, took a final sip, and set it down with a soft clink. Merry Christmas, Jessica said sweetly. We'll be in touch about the first payment. My lawyer expects a response by New Year's. She walked to the elevator, pressed the button, and stepped inside. As the doors began to close, she looked back at us, at me frozen in horror, at Cameron white-faced and trembling, and her smile widened. Oh, and Jasmine. That baby you wanted so badly? The one you lost. Consider this karma. You kicked me out. So I took what should have been yours. The elevator doors closed. The silence was deafening. I could hear my own heartbeat, too fast, too loud. Cameron's ragged breathing. The soft tick of the clock on the mantel. Then Cameron made a sound, something between a gasp and a sob, and my legs gave out. I sank back into my chair, staring at the blonde wig on our table. At the lawyer's envelope. At the wine glass marked with my sister's lipstick. At the ruins of our perfect Christmas. At the ruins of everything. 6 months before Christmas. I woke up to sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows and Cameron's arm draped across my waist. For a moment, I just lay there, thinking how impossibly lucky I was. Cameron stirred, his hand moving to rest on my stomach, a gesture that had become habit, hopeful and tender. "Morning," he murmured. "Morning." Even after 2 years of marriage, my heart still flipped when I met his eyes. "We're going to be late for brunch with the Cons." "Worth it," he said, pulling me closer. I laughed. Cameron Hartford, billionaire tech heir, can't manage to get out of bed on time. Cameron Hartford, hopelessly in love with his wife, has his priorities straight. This was us. This easy intimacy, this sense that we were a team against the world. Growing up, I'd learned early to rely only on myself. My parents had loved Jessica and me, but they'd never quite known what to do with twin daughters who were so different. Jessica was loud, demanding, always the center of attention. I was quiet, studious, determined to prove myself through hard work. It had created a wedge between us that only grew wider. An hour later, we were walking through Central Park hand in hand, the June sunshine warm on our faces. Cameron wore jeans and a simple button-down. Despite growing up with more money than most people could imagine, he was the most down-to-earth person I'd ever met. "So I was thinking," he said, "maybe we should look at that house in the Hamptons again. The one with the beach access." "Cameron, we don't need a beach house." "But you love the beach. And it would be perfect for a family, someday." "We've been trying for 6 months. Not long, but long enough that every negative pregnancy test felt like a small heartbreak." "Someday," I agreed softly. He squeezed my hand. "No pressure. We have all the time in the world." That was Cameron, always patient, always optimistic. When I'd met him 3 years ago at a charity gala, I thought he was part of the catering staff. He'd been standing alone in a corner, looking uncomfortable in his tuxedo. We talked for an hour before I realized he was Cameron Hartford, whose family's tech empire was legendary. By then, it was too late. I'd already fallen in love. "I didn't want to tell you before," he'd admitted on our third date. "People treat me differently when they know." But I'd never treated him differently. I'd built my career as a marketing executive through sheer determination, climbing to director by 30. I didn't need his money. I just wanted him. That's what he'd fallen in love with, my independence, my strength, the fact that I challenged him and never let him hide behind his family name. We'd gotten married 2 years ago in a small ceremony at City Hall. Honeymooned in a cabin in Vermont. Built a life that felt real and solid in ours. "Have you heard from your family lately?" Cameron asked as we walked. The question made my stomach tighten. "My parents are good. Dad's retiring next year." "And Jessica?" There it was. My twin sister's name, opening a door to a past I'd tried to close. No. Not in 5 years. The last time I'd seen Jessica was when we'd both gone home to Seattle for the holidays. She'd been between jobs, full of stories about LA and auditions that never went anywhere. We'd been polite, distant. Like strangers who happened to share DNA. After that, our communication had dwindled to nothing. A heart emoji when I sent a happy birthday text. Radio silence the rest of the year. I'd stopped trying to force a relationship with a sister who obviously couldn't be bothered. It hurt, but I was also relieved. Jessica's drama wasn't part of my life anymore. Cameron knew the basics, that Jessica and I were identical twins who were nothing alike, that she'd dyed her hair platinum blonde at 14 and never looked back, that she'd been in LA for 10 years chasing an acting career that never materialized, that we'd never been close. What he didn't know was how much Jessica had resented me growing up. How she'd blamed me for being the good twin, how she'd stolen from me, lied about me, manipulated every situation to make herself the victim and me the villain. Do you miss her? Cameron asked gently. Sometimes I miss the idea of having a sister, I said. Someone who shares your history. But Jessica and I were never really sisters. Not the way we should have been. Maybe someday. Maybe. But not today. Today is perfect. Cameron smiled and kissed me right there on the path while joggers and families passed by. You're right. Today is perfect. And it was. I had no idea how fragile that perfection was. How my twin sister was out there somewhere, her LA dreams in ruins, broke and desperate, about to walk back into my life. If I'd known what was coming, maybe I would have held on to that moment longer. Maybe I would have memorized the warmth of the sun, the sound of Cameron's laugh, the feeling of being completely, utterly happy. Maybe I would have prepared myself for the storm that was about to destroy everything. But I didn't know. So I just kissed my husband in Central Park on a perfect June day and believed, foolishly, that life would always be this good. 4 months before Christmas. The intercom buzzed at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night. Cameron and I were curled up on the couch, his laptop balanced on his knees, my head resting on his shoulder. Mr. and Mrs. Hartford. Marcus's voice came through, uncertain. There's someone here to see you. She says she's Mrs. Hartford's sister. My entire body went rigid. Jessica? I said into the intercom, my voice barely above a whisper. Jasmine? Jas, please, I need to see you, please. My heart hammered. 5 years. 5 years since I'd last seen her at Christmas in Seattle. 10 years since she'd left for LA with dreams of becoming a movie star. And now she was here. Send her up, I heard myself say. Cameron closed his laptop. Jasmine. She's my sister. But my hands were shaking. The elevator chimed. The doors opened. For a moment, I didn't recognize her. Jessica stood in our foyer looking wrecked. Her platinum blonde hair, always her pride, was dull and badly dyed, dark roots showing through. She wore ripped jeans and a worn leather jacket, her makeup smudged. We were both 32 now, but she looked older, worn down. Shadows under her eyes spoke of too many late nights. The smell hit me, alcohol, cigarette smoke, desperation. Jas, she said, her voice cracking. I'm so sorry to just show up like this. I didn't know where else to go. Despite everything, the years of manipulation, the 5 years of silence, I felt my heart break a little. She was still my sister. Jessica, I breathed. What happened? She burst into tears. The story came out in pieces. LA had been a disaster. 10 years of auditions that went nowhere. Of waiting tables and bartending. Of boyfriends who'd stolen from her. The most recent one had kicked her out of their apartment. I've been couch surfing for months, she said, clutching the tea I'd made her. But everyone's done with me now. I didn't have anywhere else to go. Mom and Dad can't afford to help, and I couldn't face telling them I failed. I sat across from her, Cameron beside me, his hand on my knee, support and warning. Why didn't you call? I asked gently. 5 years, Jess. She looked down. Pride, I guess. You always had everything figured out. Perfect grades, perfect career, perfect husband. She glanced at Cameron, and something flickered in her eyes. I wanted to come back a success. I thought I'd make it. That I'd come back as someone, not crawling back as the family failure. You're not a failure. Aren't I? 10 years, Jas. A decade wasted. And you were always the good twin. The one who did everything right. And I was the screw-up. The old guilt twisted in my stomach. Cameron's hand tightened on my knee, a gentle reminder. Don't fall for it. But looking at my sister, broken and desperate, I couldn't turn her away. You can stay here, I heard myself say. Just for a little while. Until you get back on your feet. Jasmine, Cameron started. She's family, I said softly, meeting his eyes. He didn't like it, but he nodded. Because he loved me. Thank you, Jessica whispered. I promise, I'll find a job right away. I'll be out of your hair in no time. That was 3 weeks ago. Jessica had made no effort to find a job. She'd settled into our guest room like a luxury hotel. Slept until noon. Ordered expensive takeout constantly, charging it to the household account. Bought silk pajamas and designer items with money she'd borrowed from me. And she went out. A lot. Now, 3 weeks in, she went out almost every night. I'd hear her stumble home at 3, 4 in the morning, reeking of alcohol. During the day, she'd nurse hangovers with expensive green juices, scrolling through her phone, asking for a little more money for interview clothes or networking events that never materialized. She's been here for 3 weeks, Cameron said one night after Jessica had gone out again. Has she applied for a single job? We were in our bedroom, door closed, voices low. She says she's networking, I said weakly. Networking. Cameron's tone was flat. Jasmine, she's out partying every night. She comes home drunk, sleeps all day, spends your money. This is exactly what she did before LA, isn't it? I winced. He was right. Jessica had always been like this, the party girl who made bad decisions and expected everyone else to clean up the mess. She's been through a lot. So you're going to enable her? He softened when he saw my face. I'm sorry. I know she's your sister. But this isn't healthy. She spent 10 years in LA and now she's back doing the same things. Let's give it another month, I said. If she hasn't found work by then, we'll have a conversation. Cameron pulled me close. Okay. 1 month. But things got worse. I came home early one afternoon to find Jessica in our kitchen on the phone, laughing. On the counter was a stack of mail, including our bank statements. She glanced up, and something flickered across her face. Calculation. Got to go, she said into the phone. Yeah, drinks tonight. She hung up and smiled. Hey. You're home early. What are you doing with those? I gestured to the statements. Oh. They were on the counter. I was just moving them. I was making lunch. But there was no food out. No evidence of lunch at all. And I knew, with the sick certainty of someone who'd watched their twin lie their whole childhood, that she'd been looking through our finances. That night, when Jessica left, I noticed something different in her eyes. A hunger. A focus. She'd seen the numbers. She knew exactly how much money Cameron had. And everything changed. The requests for money became more frequent, more demanding. Designer clothes for interviews. A new laptop. Money for headshots and acting classes. 500 here, 1,000 there. Cameron started leaving for work earlier, coming home later. The tension was palpable. Jessica partied harder. Came home later. Drank more. I'd find empty wine bottles in her room, vodka bottles hidden in the bathroom. I'd hear her on the phone, slurred, laughing about her rich sister and her loaded brother-in-law. She's using you, Cameron said one night, his patience breaking. She's using us. And you're letting her. What am I supposed to do? She's my sister. Your sister is a grown woman taking advantage of your guilt. Not that you have anything to feel guilty about. She's not looking for work. She's partying every night on our dime. She's living here rent-free, spending thousands, giving nothing back. When is enough enough? I didn't have an answer. But I should have. Because Cameron was right about everything. I just didn't realize how right until it was far too late. The morning I found out I was pregnant, I called Cameron immediately. I'm pregnant, I said when he answered, tears streaming down my face. 8 weeks. Cameron, we're pregnant. His joy was overwhelming. I'm coming home. Stay right there, I'm coming home. When he arrived, he held me for a long time, both of us crying happy tears. But then he pulled back, his expression growing serious. Jessica has to go, he said quietly. What? Jasmine, look at our lives right now. The constant fighting, the stress, her partying every night, stumbling home drunk. That's not an environment to bring a baby into. And you, he touched my face gently. You're stressed constantly. You're not sleeping. This isn't healthy for you or the baby. I knew he was right. But the guilt was overwhelming. Let me talk to her first, I said. Give me a chance to set some boundaries. But Jessica had other plans. Jas, can we talk? She appeared in my office doorway that evening, dressed to go out, another tight dress, another pair of heels I'd paid for. What's up? I kept my eyes on my laptop. I need a favor. There's this networking event tomorrow night, really high end. But the ticket is $500, and I'm a little short. No. She blinked. What? No, Jessica. I'm not giving you money for a networking event. You've been here over a month and you haven't applied for a single job. I have been networking. You think jobs just fall from the sky? I'm trying to rebuild my life, but it takes money. I've given you thousands, I interrupted. And you've spent it on clothes and takeout and going out every night. That stops now. Her face flushed. So now you're judging how I spend my time. I'm sorry I'm not perfect like you, Jasmine. You sleep until noon. You party every night. You haven't even updated your resume. You know what? Forget it. Family should help family, but I guess that only applies when it's convenient for you. She stormed out. The next week, she asked for $2,000 for professional wardrobe essentials. When I said no, she exploded. You live in a penthouse. Your husband is a billionaire. And you can't spare $2,000. Jessica, it's not Cameron's money I'm using, I said, my voice steady despite my pounding heart. It's mine. We have separate bank accounts. That was my choice because I don't need Cameron's money. I built my own career. And I'm not going to keep funding your lifestyle. Her eyes narrowed. Separate accounts? So you're just hoarding your own money while your sister struggles? You're not struggling, you're partying. There's a difference. You've always been like this. She screamed. Always so controlled, so careful. You got everything growing up, mom's attention, dad's pride, and you can't stand that I need help. That's not fair. Fair. You were always mom's favorite. Always the golden child. And now you have all this and you won't even help your own twin. The old guilt clawed at me, but I stood firm. I've helped you. For over a month. But you haven't made any effort to help yourself. 3 days later, Jessica cornered me in the kitchen. She was eerily calm. I need $10,000. I stared at her. What? 10,000. I found an apartment. First month, last month, security deposit, furniture. It would solve everything. I'd be out of your hair. Have you found a job? How would you pay rent after that? Her expression hardened. I'll figure it out. But I need help now. From family. It's a yes or no question, Jasmine. Are you going to help your sister or not? The pressure was crushing. Between Jessica's constant demands, the tension in our home, and the fear of what stress was doing to my pregnancy, I felt like I was drowning. No, I said quietly. I'm not giving you $10,000. The silence was deafening. Double wow. Jessica's laugh was cold. So you're kicking me out? Your own twin sister. After I came to you with nothing. I'm not kicking you out, I'm just saying no to one request. You're abandoning me. Just like you always did. Growing up, you never stood up for me. You just sat there being perfect while I struggled. And now you turn your back on me again. That's not true. You've always been selfish, Jasmine, always. At least I'm honest about who I am. My hands were shaking. My vision blurred. The stress was overwhelming. Get out, Cameron's voice cut through the screaming. He stood in the doorway, his face stone cold. Get out of our home, now. Jessica whirled on him. This is between me and my sister. Your sister is pregnant and you're causing her so much stress I'm afraid for her health. Pack your things. You have until tomorrow morning. Jessica's face went pale, then red. She looked at me, and I saw pure hatred in her eyes. Fine, she said softly, fine. I'll go. But don't come crying to me when you need family. Don't expect me to be there after you threw me away. She stormed to the guest room. I heard her slamming things, packing. My legs gave out. Cameron caught me, helped me to the couch. Are you okay? Is the baby? I don't know, I whispered. But I felt wrong. A cramping sensation low in my abdomen that made fear spike through me. That night, the cramping got worse. By morning, I was in the bathroom sobbing as my body betrayed me. The doctor was kind. These things happen, often in the first trimester. The stress might have been a factor, but sometimes it just happens. But I knew. Deep down, I knew. 10 weeks. I'd been 10 weeks pregnant. And now I was not. When we got home from the hospital, hollow and empty, Jessica was in the living room with her bags packed. You need to leave, Cameron said, his voice deadly quiet. Now. What happened? Jessica asked. Is everything? Leave. I didn't recognize my own voice. Get out, now. Something in my face made her not argue. She picked up her bags and walked to the elevator. I'm sorry, she said as the doors opened. Jasmine, Get out. The elevator doors closed. That night, racked with grief and guilt, I did something stupid. I transferred the $10,000 to Jessica's account. I'm sorry. Take care of yourself. Because despite everything, she was my sister. It was the biggest mistake of my life. Because Jessica didn't see it as kindness. She saw it as weakness. And she was already planning her revenge. 2 weeks after Jessica left, 8 weeks before Christmas. I stared at my suitcase on our bed, trying to remember if I'd packed everything for the Boston conference. 3 days. It was only 3 days, but leaving felt wrong somehow. Cameron came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. You don't have to go. I do. I'm on 2 panels. I leaned back against him. Besides, maybe some time away will help me reset. It had been 2 weeks since the miscarriage. 2 weeks of grief that came in waves, of crying at random moments. 2 weeks of Cameron holding me while I sobbed. 2 weeks of silence from Jessica. I'd checked my bank account obsessively those first few days after I'd transferred the $10,000, half expecting her to drain everything. But she'd taken the money and nothing more. No thank you, no apology, no contact at all. Part of me was relieved. Part of me felt guilty for that relief. 3 days, Cameron said softly. Then you'll be home and we'll have a quiet weekend. Just us. I turned and kissed him. I love you. Love you too. He tucked a strand of my auburn hair behind my ear. Text me when you land, always? The conference was exactly what I expected. Panels, networking, hotel conference rooms. I threw myself into it, grateful for the distraction from grief and loss and family drama. On the second night, after a long dinner with clients, I called Cameron around 10. Hey, his voice was warm. How's it going? Exhausting. Good, but exhausting. How are you? Missing you. The penthouse is too quiet without you. We talked about nothing important, his day, my panels, what we do when I got home. Normal, comforting things. Get some sleep, he said finally. You sound tired. I am. I love you. Love you more. I fell asleep thinking how lucky I was, how we get through this grief together, how everything would be okay. I had no idea that at that exact moment, my twin sister was standing outside our building with auburn hair cut exactly like mine, wearing clothes she'd stolen from my closet, holding my old gym key card with the apartment key attached, that I thought I'd lost months ago. I had no idea she'd been planning this for 2 weeks, tracking my calendar, watching my social media, waiting for the perfect opportunity. I had no idea she was about to destroy everything. I got home from Boston around 3 in the afternoon, exhausted but glad to be back. Cameron was still at work, so I unpacked, showered, changed into comfortable clothes. Normal routine. Cameron came home around 6, and something was off immediately. He seemed confused. Kept looking at me strangely. What? I finally asked, laughing a little. Do I have something on my face? No, I just... When did you get back? Like, 3 hours ago. I texted you from the car, remember? He frowned. But you came home last night, He trailed off, his frown deepening. Didn't you? What? No, I was in Boston last night. At the conference. We talked on the phone, remember? Around 10. Yeah, but after that you. He shook his head, looking genuinely confused. Never mind. I must have been more tired than I thought. Maybe I was dreaming. Something cold prickled at the back of my neck. What do you mean? I could have sworn you came home late last night. That you said you caught an early flight, that you surprised me. He laughed uncertainly. I must have been half asleep. Sorry, long day. He kissed my forehead and went to change clothes, and I stood there with that cold feeling spreading through my chest. But that was crazy. He'd been tired, probably working too hard, stressed about everything we'd been through. People had vivid dreams all the time. I pushed it out of my mind. Life went on. We settled back into our routine. The grief over the miscarriage was still there, but gentler now, more manageable. We started talking about trying again in a few months. About taking a vacation. About the future. I stopped thinking about Jessica. Stopped checking my phone for messages that never came. She was gone from our lives, and that was better for everyone. 2 weeks passed. It had been 4 weeks since we'd asked her to leave. I had no idea Jessica was taking a pregnancy test in whatever apartment she'd found with my $10,000. And watching it turn positive. I had no idea she was smiling with cold satisfaction. No idea that she was already seeing a lawyer, planning her next move. No idea that she was about to walk back into our lives with a bomb that would destroy everything. I had no idea until that Christmas dinner, when she pulled off that blonde wig and said those words that would haunt me forever. You had no problem touching me when I looked like this, Cameron. But standing in our dining room, staring at the ruins of our Christmas dinner, at the blonde wig on the table and the lawyer's letter demanding money, I finally understood. That night. That confusion. That moment when Cameron thought I'd come home early. It hadn't been a dream. It had been her. My twin sister had impersonated me. Had stolen my identity, my hairstyle, my life for one night. Had tricked my husband into something he never would have consented to if he'd known the truth. But even as I said the words, I knew the truth. She was pregnant. With Cameron's child. The child I'd lost, the baby we'd grieved, she'd stolen that too. And she thought she'd won. She thought we'd just pay her off, give her everything she wanted, let her walk away with Cameron's money and our destroyed lives. But she was wrong. Because she'd made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated me. I looked at Cameron, saw the same realization dawning in his eyes. We'd been victims tonight. Shocked, devastated, broken. But that ended now. We need a lawyer, I said quietly. The best family lawyer in New York. First thing tomorrow. Cameron nodded slowly. And a private investigator. She wants to play games. My voice was steady now, cold and clear. Fine. But she's going to learn that I protect what's mine. And I always, always, finish what I start. The war had begun. And this time, I was going to win. The silence after the elevator doors closed was deafening. I stared at the blonde wig on our table, at the lawyer's envelope, at the ruins of our Christmas dinner. Cameron made a sound, something between a gasp and a sob. Oh my God. His voice was raw. Jasmine, I thought it was you. I swear to God, I thought it was you. He was shaking. I watched him sink into his chair, his head in his hands. I know, I whispered. I know you did. That night. 2 months ago. His words came out in a rush. I was working late, came home exhausted, spoke to you and went to bed. Then she was here. In the dark. Wearing your robe, your perfume. She had your hair, your voice, everything. I didn't question it. Why would I? His voice broke. I never would have. If I'd known. Looking at him, seeing the horror in his eyes, I couldn't be angry at him. He was a victim too. We both were. She planned this, I said slowly, the pieces clicking together. She planned all of it. She lived here for 6 weeks, I continued, pacing. She saw everything, our calendar, our routines. She knew about the fertility struggles. Then it hit me. My ovulation tests. I kept them in the bathroom cabinet. The box was almost empty before we kicked her out, but I thought I'd just use them up. Cameron's face went pale. She was using them. Tracking her own cycle. She was waiting, I said, the full horror sinking in. Waiting for when she would be fertile and I would be away. That's why it was that specific night, the Boston conference. She'd been planning it for weeks, waiting for the perfect window. That's why she kept asking about your work schedule, Cameron said. And the bank statements, she was calculating child support. Planning how much she could get for the next 18 years. This wasn't impulse, I said. This was premeditated, calculated. She was setting up the conflict, Cameron finished. Making sure we kick her out so she could justify this. In her mind, you abandoned her, so she was entitled to take something from you. I grabbed the back of a chair to steady myself. The baby I lost. That's what she meant. She's replacing it. Cameron crossed to me, his hands on my shoulders. I love you. Only you. What she did, that was fraud, that was deception. That wasn't us, that wasn't our marriage. But it was your body, I said softly. And now there's going to be a child. The weight of that hung between us. Cameron's biological child. Growing inside my sister. Can we survive this? I asked. Can our marriage survive what she did? Cameron pulled me close. I don't know, he said honestly. But I want to try. God, Jasmine, I want to try. She violated both of us, I said. She used your trust in me as a weapon. This isn't your fault. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. The part Jessica had been poisoning my entire life wondered if I was enough. What do we do? Cameron asked. She's pregnant. With my. We fight, I said, steadiness returning to my voice. We fight back. How? She has a lawyer. She's demanding $50,000 a month. She made a mistake. I picked up the envelope, opened it. Child support. Living expenses. Medical care. An apartment. 18 years of financial support. She told us what she did. She bragged about it. Something hard and cold settled in my chest. She impersonated me. Identity theft, fraud. She planned it, executed it, and confessed to it in front of both of us. But we don't have proof. Not yet. But we'll get it. I set the letter down. Security cameras in the building, were there any that night? Cameron's eyes widened. Yes. The building keeps footage for at least 90 days. And she had to get in somehow. My old gym key card, I thought I'd lost it. She must have stolen it. My resolve hardened. We can prove she was here when I was in Boston. Phone records, hotel records, flight confirmations. We can prove I was 200 miles away while she was here pretending to be me. Even if we prove it, Cameron said quietly, she's still pregnant. That's still my biological child. His child. Not ours. Created through deception but real nonetheless. I know, I said softly. We stood there facing the truth. There was going to be a child. Cameron's child. And Jessica was carrying it. What do you want to do? I asked. Your child, your choice. Cameron was quiet. Then, I want to protect that baby from Jessica. I want to make sure she doesn't raise my child the way she's lived, manipulative, destructive, selfish. He took my hands. But more than that, I want to protect you. Protect us. She's trying to destroy our marriage. And I won't let her win. Something in my chest loosened slightly. Enough to breathe. So we fight, I repeated. I looked at the clock. Nearly 11 on Christmas night. Tomorrow, first thing, we find the best family lawyer in New York. We get the security footage before it's deleted. We start building a case. A case for what? Custody? The word hung heavy, custody. Of a baby that didn't exist yet, carried by my twin sister, representing the worst violation imaginable. But also a baby that was innocent. A child who deserved better. Maybe, I said slowly. Or at least leverage. She wants money? Fine. But with conditions. Monitored prenatal care. Proof she's taking care of that baby. And if she's not, Cameron's jaw tightened. She was drinking heavily when she lived here. Going out every night, coming home drunk. If she's still doing that while pregnant, that's child endangerment, I finished. Grounds for intervention. For custody. It felt wrong, cold and calculating. But then I remembered her cruelty, her triumphant smile, the weeks of planning this violation. She'd started this war. But I was going to finish it. We'll need a private investigator, I said. Someone who can follow her, document what she's doing. If she's still drinking, still partying while pregnant. We document everything, Cameron said grimly. Every choice that puts that baby at risk. Build a case that she's unfit. And we pursue the impersonation legally. Criminal charges if possible. I was thinking strategically now. She thinks she can blackmail us, destroy our marriage, and walk away rich. But she miscalculated. She thought we'd be too ashamed to fight back, Cameron said. She was wrong. I looked at him. I'm not ashamed. You were deceived. I was violated. That baby deserves better. I won't let shame stop me from protecting all of us. Cameron pulled me close. I love you. Whatever happens, whatever this costs us, I love you. That hasn't changed. I love you too, I whispered. I'd spent my whole life being the good twin. The responsible one. Following the rules. But Jessica had changed the rules. She'd shown me that being good made me vulnerable. So I'd learned to fight the way she did. Strategic, calculating, relentless. The difference was, I'd be fighting to protect an innocent child and save my marriage. She'd been fighting out of spite and greed. And that would make all the difference. Tomorrow, I said. Tomorrow we start. But tonight? We just survive. Do you want me to clean this up? He gestured to the disaster around us. No. Leave it. I need to see it. Need to remember what she did so I don't lose my nerve. We walked to our bedroom together. We didn't plan or strategize. We just held each other in the darkness, two people violated and betrayed, trying to find comfort. Sleep didn't come easily. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jessica's triumphant smile. Heard her cruel words. But I also thought about the baby. Cameron's child. Growing inside someone so toxic. That baby deserved better. And I was going to make sure they got it. Whatever it took. The morning after Christmas, I made the first call at 7 a.m. Iris? I said when she answered, her voice groggy. It's Jasmine Hartford. I need your help. It's an emergency. Iris Jones and I had worked together on a marketing campaign 2 years ago. We'd stayed friendly, and I remembered her mentioning her mother was one of New York's top family law attorneys. Jasmine? What's wrong? I need your mother's number. The best family lawyer you know, please. Something in my voice must have convinced her. Hold on. 10 minutes later, Irene Jones called back. Mrs. Hartford, her voice was crisp, professional. Iris gave me the basics. I'm very sorry for what you're going through. I can see you today, 11 a.m. at my office. Thank you, I breathed. Don't thank me yet, Irene said. From what Iris told me, this is going to be complicated. Irene Jones's office was in Midtown, everything about it screaming expensive and successful. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an air of absolute competence. Tell me everything, she said. We did. Starting from Jessica's arrival 4 months ago, through the escalating demands, the miscarriage, kicking her out, and the Christmas dinner revelation. I showed her the lawyer's letter. Described how Jessica had stolen my hairstyle, my identity, my life for one night. Irene took notes, her expression neutral. And you believe she timed this to her own fertile window? She asked. Yes, I said. She was using my ovulation tests, the box was nearly empty. She tracked her own cycle, waited until I'd be away and she'd be ovulating. It was completely premeditated, clearly. Irene leaned back. First things first, we need a paternity test. Mr. Hartford. Of course, Cameron said immediately. Good. Next, the impersonation. This is fraud, identity theft, deception. We'll need evidence. Security footage from your building that night, your travel records proving you were in Boston. Phone records, hotel receipts, flight confirmations. The building keeps security footage for 6 months, Cameron said. Get it today. Before anyone thinks to delete it, Irene made a note. Now the difficult part. She's pregnant, 10 weeks, she said. That's what she claimed. We'll verify through medical records once paternity is established. But here's what you need to understand. Irene's expression grew grave. In New York State, we cannot force a pregnant woman to stop drinking or engaging in risky behavior. Pregnant women have bodily autonomy protected by law. We cannot restrict her activities in any way. The words hit like a punch. But she's endangering the baby, I said. Cameron's baby. She drank almost an entire bottle of wine by herself at Christmas dinner. Cameron had to open another bottle before we even knew she was pregnant. I understand. But legally, until that baby is born, it has no separate rights. The fetus is not considered a person under New York law. Irene's tone was sympathetic but firm. This is one of the most frustrating aspects of family law, being legally powerless to intervene. So we just wait? Cameron asked, his voice strained. Watch her potentially harm my child and do nothing? Not nothing. We document. Irene leaned forward. Here's the strategy. We hire the best private investigator in the city. They follow Jessica, document her behavior, where she goes, what she does. If she's drinking heavily, living recklessly, we photograph it, video it, document every instance. But if we can't stop her... We can't stop her while she's pregnant, Irene interrupted. But the moment that baby is born, everything changes. If there are substances in the baby's system at birth, the hospital automatically calls Child Protective Services. Our documentation of dangerous behavior during pregnancy becomes the foundation for an emergency custody hearing. I felt sick. So we watch for months. Document it. And wait, yes. Irene's expression was resolute. I know it's not what you want to hear. But it's our only option for post-birth custody. Of course, we're hoping for the best, I said quietly. Our main concern is the baby's health. Maybe she'll behave responsibly now that she's pregnant. Maybe she'll stop drinking, take care of herself. That's what we want, for the baby to be healthy. Irene nodded. That would be the ideal outcome. But we need to prepare for the worst-case scenario. There's more, she continued. You need to pretend to cooperate with her demands. What? I stared at her. Pay her just enough to maintain access. Not 50,000, that's absurd. But enough to keep her from disappearing. Because if you refuse, she'll cut off contact, and you'll have no way to monitor the pregnancy. You want us to pay her so we can document how unfit she is, Cameron said slowly. Think of it as an investment in your custody case. Pay her 10 or 15,000 a month. Enough that she can't complain, but not so much a court would think you're buying her off. In exchange, you maintain contact. You're the concerned aunt, the concerned father. You want to ensure the baby is healthy. Irene pulled out a legal pad. Meanwhile, your private investigator documents everything when you're not around. We build two narratives, the public one where you're cooperative and concerned, and the private one gathering evidence of unfitness. It felt manipulative, calculated. But it was also smart. How long? I asked. She's 10 weeks now. Another 30 weeks until full term. 7.5 months, minimum. Irene looked between us. This will be emotionally exhausting. Watching someone potentially endanger a child while maintaining a facade of cooperation. But it's the only legal path forward. And after the baby's born? Cameron asked. We move immediately. If substances are in the baby's system, CPS gets involved automatically. We file for emergency custody, present our documentation, demonstrate Mr. Hartford can provide a stable home. We also pursue the criminal case for the impersonation that gives us additional leverage. What are our chances? I asked quietly. Irene was silent for a moment. If we can document significant issues, medical neglect, instability, and if the baby tests positive at birth, 70%. Maybe higher. Courts prioritize the child's welfare, and a biological father with resources is a strong candidate for custody. She paused. But this will be ugly. Your sister will fight back. She'll paint you as vindictive. The media might get involved. It will be expensive, exhausting, emotionally devastating. But we'll win, I said. If we do this right, if Jessica gives us enough ammunition, if we prove she's unfit, yes. Irene looked at me steadily. The question is whether you're prepared for what it will cost. Emotionally, financially, personally. I thought about that baby. Cameron's child. Growing inside someone so reckless. I thought about Jessica's triumphant smile when she pulled off that wig. I'm prepared, I said firmly. Whatever it takes. Cameron squeezed my hand. We both are. Irene nodded. Then let's get to work. First, Richard Torres. Best private investigator in New York. He'll set up surveillance. She wrote down a number. Second, get that security footage today. Third, paternity test. Fourth, draft a response to her lawyer offering $15,000 a month, pending paternity confirmation. She'll be furious, I said. Good. Angry people make mistakes. We want her furious but not furious enough to disappear. Irene stood. One more thing, take care of your marriage. This kind of trauma can destroy even the strongest relationships. Get a therapist. Don't let her win by poisoning what you have together. We left with a plan, a private investigator's number, and a mission. It wasn't immediate justice. But it was a path forward. In the car, Cameron was quiet. Finally, he spoke. 7.5 months. Watching her, pretending, knowing she might be hurting my child. I know, I said softly. Can we survive this? I thought about Irene's words. About how this could destroy us. But I also thought about holding each other last night, about choosing to fight together. We can, I said. We have to. Because the alternative was letting Jessica win. And that was something I would never, ever do. Richard Torres looked more like a college professor than a private investigator. Glasses, graying hair, a kind face. But his eyes were sharp, assessing. Mrs. Hartford, Mr. Hartford. He shook our hands in his Chelsea office. Irene Jones briefed me on your situation. I'm very sorry. Can you help us? I asked. I can document whatever there is to document, he said carefully. You want me to follow your sister for potentially 7.5 months, photograph her activities, document her lifestyle. That's a significant investment, financially and emotionally. How much? Cameron asked. Round-the-clock surveillance, multiple operatives, equipment, reports, 15 to 20,000 a month. He held up a hand. Partial surveillance costs less, but you'll have gaps. Full surveillance, I said without hesitation. Richard nodded. I'll need a recent photo, her current address, known associates, regular haunts. We gave him everything, photos, the apartment address, her favorite clubs, everything we remembered. One more thing, Richard said as we stood to leave. Be prepared for what we might find. Given her history, the drinking, the partying, if she's continuing those patterns while pregnant, the evidence will be disturbing. Are you prepared? Yes, I said. Because that baby deserves better. Week 12, early January. Irene helped us draft a response to Jessica's lawyer. We offered $15,000 a month, pending paternity testing, with the understanding that we wanted to be involved in prenatal care. Jessica's response came within 24 hours, a furious phone call. 15,000. I asked for 50. And you want paternity testing? Jessica, we have a right to confirm, Cameron started. You know it's yours. Fine, fine. I'll take your pathetic 15,000. But don't think you get to play happy family. This is my baby, mine. You're just the wallet. She hung up. But we'd gotten what we needed. She'd accepted the money, which meant we could maintain contact. Her lawyer called back an hour later, agreeing to the paternity test and payment schedule. The test came back 3 days later, 99.9% probability that Cameron was the biological father. Scientific proof of what Jessica had done. The first report from Richard came 2 weeks later. January 10, 11:47 p.m. Subject entered nightclub Lotus in Meatpacking District. Remained inside approximately 3 hours. Note, subject has dyed hair back to platinum blonde. The photo showed Jessica in a tight dress, her platinum blonde hair back, cut and dyed to its original color. It was a little longer than my auburn bob now, growing back to its original length. She'd abandoned the disguise, no longer needing to pretend to be me. January 11th, 2:43 a.m., subject exited club, visibly intoxicated. Stumbling gait required assistance from friend. Observed consuming multiple alcoholic beverages throughout evening. More photos. Jessica with a drink. Jessica dancing. Jessica smoking outside. She's 14 weeks pregnant, I whispered. And she's drinking. I stared at the photos, memories flooding back. This was who Jessica had always been. When we were kids, she'd sneak out with no money in her pockets and still come home drunk or high at dawn. She always found a way. The money we were giving her now wasn't changing her behavior, it was just upgrading her venues from dive bars to exclusive clubs. January 18th, subject missed scheduled prenatal appointment, standard monthly checkup. The pattern continued. Partying 3 or 4 nights a week. Missing appointments. Sleeping late, ordering expensive takeout, spending money on designer clothes and nights out. This is just the first 2 weeks, Richard's note said. Pattern consistent with prior behavior. Will continue surveillance. Month 4, February. The reports kept coming. Jessica had moved to a luxury Soho apartment, paid for with support money. February 3rd, subject purchased $3,000 designer handbag. Previous day's support payment noted. February 7th, subject at nightclub PhD rooftop, consumed multiple alcoholic beverages. Visibly pregnant, dancing erratically. February 14th, subject missed scheduled ultrasound appointment, 20-week anatomy scan. That one broke my heart. The anatomy scan, the chance to see the baby, check development, ensure everything was okay. Jessica couldn't be bothered. Richard's surveillance of her apartment showed no visible signs of baby preparation. No crib, no changing table, no baby clothes. Just designer shopping bags and empty wine bottles. Month 5, March. Jessica called one afternoon with another demand. I need $2,000 for a prenatal appointment. They want payment upfront. Cameron looked at me, then at his phone. When's the appointment? Thursday. 2 o'clock. I'll meet you there, Cameron said. I'll bring a check. You want to come to my doctor's appointment? I want to make sure you go, he said bluntly. And I want to see how the baby's doing. I'm the father. I have a right. Fine, Jessica said coldly. St. Luke's Women's Health. Don't be late. That Thursday, Cameron and I sat in the waiting room of the medical office, anxiety twisting in my stomach. Other pregnant women sat with partners, chatting, excited. We sat in tense silence. Jessica appeared 20 minutes late, blonde hair pulled back, wearing expensive maternity clothes that looked like they'd never been worn before. She took the check from Cameron without a word and went in for her appointment. We waited. 30 minutes, 45. Finally, she emerged. Without looking at us, she thrust a grainy black and white photo into Cameron's hand. It's a boy, she said flatly. Happy now? Cameron stared at the ultrasound image. His son. His hand shook slightly. Is everything okay? I asked. Is he healthy? The doctor says he's fine. Measuring on schedule. She turned to leave. I'll call you when I need more money. She walked out, leaving us standing there with a single ultrasound photo of a baby boy who deserved so much better than the mother carrying him. Month 6, April. April 8th, subject at Tribeca party, consumed champagne throughout evening despite visible pregnancy, approximately 24 weeks. Bartender initially refused service due to pregnancy, subject became argumentative. April 15th, subject observed smoking outside apartment building. Third instance this month. April 20th, subject refused service at Bar The Heights. Management cited policy against serving visibly pregnant women. Subject cause seen before leaving. Richard's surveillance of her apartment continued to show zero baby preparation. No nursery items. No baby supplies. Just evidence of the same lifestyle she'd always lived. The difference now was she was drinking top-shelf vodka at exclusive clubs instead of cheap beer at dive bars. She doesn't even have a crib, I told Irene. There's no visible sign she spent anything on that baby. Document it, Irene said. Every missed appointment, Every dollar misused, every instance. It builds the case. Month 7, May. The emotional toll was staggering. Cameron and I fought, not about each other, but about the situation, the helplessness. We started seeing Dr. Cheryl Francis, a therapist specializing in trauma. Your marriage survived a violation, she told us. What you're experiencing now is secondary trauma, watching the consequences while feeling powerless. You're processing it together. That matters. But sometimes I wondered. Sometimes I'd see guilt in Cameron's eyes. Sometimes I'd resent his connection to this baby tearing our lives apart. Do you think about her when we... I couldn't finish. Never, Cameron said quietly. What happened? That wasn't intimacy. That wasn't a choice. That was deception. But she's still there, in our marriage. Yes, he admitted. As a wound we're both trying to heal around. Month 8, June. Jessica's behavior escalated. June 3rd, subject at rooftop party, visibly intoxicated, 32 weeks pregnant. Multiple witnesses observed concerning behavior. June 10th, subject refused service at 3 different establishments due to visible pregnancy and intoxication. Became aggressive at one location, asked to leave. June 18th, subject missed final prenatal appointment before estimated due date. She called less, and when she did, her demands were aggressive. Giving her money was the only way to maintain contact, though the guilt weighed heavily. Were we enabling her destructive habits? But deep down, I knew there was no stopping Jessica from her behavior, whether she had money or not. This was who she'd always been. Richard's latest report showed her apartment still had no visible baby items. No crib, no clothes, no supplies, nothing. Week 38, late July. Any day now, Irene said in our final meeting. Is everything ready? Lawyer on standby. Custody petition ready. Documentation organized. CPS contact briefed. As ready as we can be, I said. The moment she goes into labor, be at that hospital, Irene instructed. When the baby's born, there'll be blood work. If substances are present, the hospital alerts CPS immediately. That's when we move. I looked at the file. 8 months of documentation. Thousands of photos. Medical records. Financial records. Witness statements. Evidence of money spent on everything except the baby she was carrying. It had to be enough. July 28th, 3:47 a.m. My phone rang. Unknown number, Jasmine. It's happening. I'm at Mount Sinai. The baby, he's coming. My heart slammed. We'll be right there. I shook Cameron awake. It's time. After 8 months of watching, waiting, documenting, it all came down to this. Jessica's baby was being born. And the real fight was about to begin. Mount Sinai Hospital at 4 in the morning was quiet, fluorescent lit, eerily calm. Cameron and I sat in the waiting area outside labor and delivery, neither of us speaking. Irene was on her way. Richard had been notified. Our CPS contact, Linda Ramirez, was on standby. Everything we'd planned for 8 months was about to unfold. Family of Jessica Davies. A nurse appeared. We stood. We're here, I said. How is she? She's progressing well. 4 centimeters dilated. It'll be a while yet. The nurse hesitated. She asked me to tell you that she expects you to handle the hospital bill. She doesn't have insurance. Of course she didn't. Despite nearly $200,000, she'd never bothered to get insurance. We'll take care of it, Cameron said. 8 months of support payments, I said quietly after the nurse left, and she couldn't get insurance for the baby. Add it to the list, Cameron replied. Irene arrived 20 minutes later, carrying a briefcase with copies of everything, every report, every photo, every piece of evidence. Status? She asked. 4 centimeters. Could be hours still, I said. Good. I've alerted Linda Ramirez. She'll come as soon as the baby is born and blood work is processed. The hours crawled by. 6 a.m. became 7, became 8. I sat there, hands clasped, and found myself praying. Please let him be healthy. Please let him be okay. Whatever Jessica has done, that baby is innocent, please. I hadn't prayed in years, but now the words came unbidden. For Cameron's son. For the child we'd fought so hard to protect. At 9:23 a.m., a nurse emerged. She's fully dilated. It's time. The father, she looked at Cameron uncertainly. I'm the biological father, Cameron said, standing. But she doesn't want me in there. No, the nurse confirmed. She was very clear about that. After she left, Cameron sank back down, his head in his hands. My son is being born and I can't be there. I took his hand, wishing I had words of comfort. At 10:47 a.m., the nurse returned. It's a boy, she said, smiling. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Mom and baby are both stable. Can we see him? I asked. She disappeared to check, then returned with her smile gone. I'm sorry. The mother says she doesn't want any visitors. Cameron gripped my hand so tightly it hurt. His son was here, alive, breathing somewhere in this hospital. We sat back down, waiting. 2 hours later, a doctor appeared, young, South Asian, with kind but troubled eyes. Mr. and Mrs. Hartford. I'm Dr. Patel, the attending pediatrician. Could you come with me? My heart jumped. We followed her to a small consultation room. The baby is stable, Dr. Patel said immediately. But there are concerning findings on his blood work. What kind of findings? Cameron asked, his voice strained. The baby's blood alcohol content was detectable, not dangerously high, but present. This indicates recent maternal alcohol consumption, likely within the past 24 to 48 hours. She paused. There are also markers indicating exposure to illegal narcotics during pregnancy. The words hung in the air. What does that mean for him? I asked. Is he okay? It's too early to say. Neonatal abstinence syndrome is a possibility, withdrawal symptoms from prenatal exposure. We'll monitor him closely over the next 72 hours. Dr. Patel's expression was serious. I'm required by law to report these findings to Child Protective Services. We understand, Irene said. We've been expecting this. Understanding dawned in Dr. Patel's eyes. I see. There's already a situation. There is, Irene confirmed. I'm their attorney. We've been documenting concerning maternal behavior throughout the pregnancy. The baby will be held at the hospital pending CPS investigation. The mother will be informed shortly. After she left, Cameron's legs seemed to give out. He sat heavily. He's here. My son is here. And he was exposed to, his voice broke. For 8 months we watched. We did what we legally could, Irene said firmly. We couldn't force her to stop. But we documented it, and now we act. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling Linda. 20 minutes later, Linda Ramirez arrived, a woman in her 40s with tired but determined eyes. She met with Dr. Patel, reviewed the blood work, then sat with us. I've been briefed on your situation. I've just reviewed the medical findings. This is clear grounds for CPS involvement. The baby will remain in hospital custody while we investigate. We have documentation, Irene said, pulling files from her briefcase. 8 months of surveillance, missed appointments, financial irresponsibility, evidence of ongoing substance use throughout the pregnancy. Linda paged through them, her expression growing grimmer. This is extensive. Very extensive. We've been documenting a pattern of behavior that put this baby at risk, Irene said. I'll need to speak with the mother. Then we'll schedule an emergency custody hearing. Given these findings, within 48 hours. What happens to the baby in the meantime? I asked. He stays here, in the hospital's care. Neither parent has custody until the court decides. Linda stood. I need to speak with Ms. Davies now. Prepare yourselves, this won't be pleasant. We waited outside Jessica's room. Through the door, raised voices, Linda's calm, Jessica's shrill. What do you mean you're taking my baby? You can't do that. He's mine. Ms. Davies, please calm down. The baby tested positive for alcohol and narcotics. Hospital protocol requires. That's ridiculous. Those tests are wrong. We also have documentation of your behavior throughout the pregnancy. Photographs, medical records showing missed appointments. Who's been watching me? A pause. Then louder, it was them. Jasmine and Cameron. They've been stalking me. The door flew open. Jessica stood there in a hospital gown, her face blotchy with tears and rage. When she saw us, her expression twisted. You, she hissed. You're trying to steal my baby. We're trying to protect him, Cameron said steadily. Protect him from you. He's my son. I carried him. I'm his biological father, Cameron interrupted. And you conceived him through fraud and deception. You think that gives you rights? Jessica's face went pale, then red. You can't prove I did anything wrong. Actually, I said, my voice cold, we can. We have security footage from the night you impersonated me. We have my travel records proving I was in Boston. We have everything we need to prove what you did. That's separate from. No, it's not, Irene said, stepping forward. It's all connected. Your pattern of deception, manipulation, and reckless behavior. Every club you went to while pregnant. Every drink. Every missed appointment. Every dollar you spent on yourself instead of your baby. 8 months of documentation proving you are unfit to raise this child. Jessica staggered back. You've been spying on me. Documenting your choices, I corrected. Choices you made freely. No one forced you to drink while pregnant. No one forced you to party instead of attending appointments. No one forced you to spend support money on designer handbags instead of preparing for your baby. I hate you, Jessica whispered, tears streaming. You've always had everything. And you couldn't even let me have this. You took it first, I said quietly. You stole my husband, my identity, the baby I'd lost. You did this, Jessica. All of it. You started this war. We're just finishing it. Glinda stepped between us. That's enough. Ms. Davies, you need to rest. And Mr. and Mrs. Hartford, you need to leave. As we walked away, I heard Jessica's sobs echoing down the hallway. Part of me felt something like pity. But then I remembered her cruel smile when she pulled off that wig. The 8 months of watching her endanger Cameron's son. Everything she'd stolen. The pity evaporated. Emergency custody hearing scheduled for day after tomorrow, Irene said as we rode the elevator down. Judge Pamela Jeffries, excellent track record for ruling based on evidence. This is good for us. What are our chances? Cameron asked. With these blood results and 8 months of documentation? 90%. Maybe higher. Irene looked at us seriously. But prepare yourselves. Jessica will fight. This is just the beginning. We stepped into the bright July morning. Somewhere upstairs, Cameron's newborn son was being monitored, substance exposure in his tiny system, separated from his mother. The baby we fought 8 months to save. What happens now? I asked. Now, Irene said, we go to court. And we win. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Austere, wood-paneled, with high windows letting in harsh morning light. Judge Pamela Jeffries sat behind the bench, a black woman in her 60s with silver hair and an expression that gave nothing away. Jessica sat at the defendant's table with her lawyer, David Brenner, who specialized in defending difficult cases. She wore a conservative dress, minimal makeup, her blonde hair pulled back. Playing the part of the wronged mother. Cameron and I sat behind Irene, my hands clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms. We'll begin with opening statements, Judge Jeffries said. Ms. Jones, you're representing the petitioners? Irene stood. Yes, Your Honor. My clients, Mr. Cameron Hartford and Mrs. Jasmine Hartford, are seeking emergency custody of the minor child born 3 days ago to Ms. Jessica Davies. Mr. Hartford is the biological father. We will demonstrate through extensive documentation that Ms. Davies is unfit to parent this child due to substance abuse during pregnancy, medical neglect, financial irresponsibility, and a pattern of deceptive and dangerous behavior. Mr. Brenner stood. Your Honor, this is a wealthy couple attempting to steal a baby from a struggling single mother. Ms. Davies may have made mistakes, but she loves her child and deserves the chance to be a mother. The Hartfords have been stalking my client for 8 months, invading her privacy, building a biased case to justify taking her newborn son. Judge Jeffries made a note. Ms. Jones, present your evidence. What followed was 2 hours of methodical destruction. Irene presented the paternity test first, 99.9% probability Cameron was the father. Then security footage from our building timestamped the night Jessica became pregnant, showing her entering at midnight using a stolen keycard. My travel records proving I was in Boston. Hotel receipts, conference registration, phone records. Ms. Davies gained access to the Hartford's home by impersonating Mrs. Hartford, Irene said. She had recently cut and dyed her hair to match her identical twins' auburn appearance. She timed this impersonation to when Mrs. Hartford was out of town and Miss Davies herself was ovulating. This was calculated fraud with the specific intent to become pregnant with Mr. Hartford's child. Mr. Brenner objected. This has no bearing on Ms. Davis's fitness as a mother. It establishes a pattern of deception and premeditation, Judge Jeffrey said. Overruled. Continue, Ms. Jones. Next came financial records. 8 months of support totaling over $200,000. Documentation showing how it was spent, designer clothes, expensive dinners, nightclub tabs, luxury items. Evidence Jessica's apartment contained no crib, no baby furniture, no supplies. Despite substantial financial support for prenatal care and baby preparation, Irene said, Ms. Davies spent the money almost exclusively on herself. She failed to obtain health insurance, forcing the Hartfords to cover the hospital bill. She made no preparation for the baby's arrival. Then medical records. 11 missed appointments over 8 months. Missed ultrasounds. Failure to take prescribed prenatal vitamins. Documentation from her OB/GYN noting patient compliance concerns. Finally, surveillance reports. Irene projected photos, Jessica visibly pregnant, drinking at clubs. Smoking outside her building. Out until 3 a.m. repeatedly. Timestamps, locations, witness statements. This pattern continued throughout the pregnancy, Irene said. Despite carrying a child, despite receiving financial support for prenatal care, Ms. Davies chose to prioritize partying and drinking over her baby's welfare. The final piece was the baby's blood work. The child tested positive for alcohol exposure at birth, Irene said, her voice hard. The hospital also found markers indicating exposure to illegal narcotics during pregnancy. This is the direct result of Ms. Davis's choices. Her complete disregard for the child she was carrying. I watched Jessica throughout. She sat rigid, face pale, occasionally whispering to her lawyer. When the photos of her drinking while pregnant appeared, she looked down. Your Honor, Irene concluded, Ms. Davis's behavior demonstrates a pattern of selfish, reckless, dangerous decision-making. She chose her own pleasure over her child's welfare at every opportunity. The positive test results at birth are proof of the harm her choices caused. We ask that emergency custody be granted to Mr. Hartford, who can provide a stable, safe home for his son. Judge Jeffries turned to Mr. Brenner. Your response? Brenner tried. He painted Jessica as a victim, argued the surveillance was invasive, suggested the blood work was inconclusive. But he had no counter to the mountain of evidence. Finally, Judge Jeffries spoke. Does Ms. Davies wish to testify? Jessica stood slowly. She looked small, fragile. I love my son, she said, voice shaking. I know I made mistakes. But I carried him for 9 months. He's mine. They can't just take him because they have money and power and, her voice broke. My sister hates me. She's always hated me. And now she's taking my baby to punish me. Is that what you believe this is about? Judge Jeffries asked. Punishment? Yes. She kicked me out when I needed help. She chose her husband over her own twin sister. And now she's using their money to steal my child. Did you or did you not consume alcohol while pregnant with this child? Jessica hesitated. Sometimes. At social events. It wasn't. Did you or did you not miss multiple prenatal appointments? I was busy. Did you or did you not spend the majority of financial support on personal luxuries rather than baby preparation? Jessica's face crumpled. I didn't think. I thought I had time. Did you or did you not impersonate your sister to deceive Mr. Hartford? Silence. Ms. Davies, answer the question. Yes, Jessica whispered. But she deserved it. She threw me out. That's enough. Judge Jeffries' voice cut through the courtroom. Sit down, Miss Davies. Jessica sank into her chair, tears streaming. Judge Jeffries was silent, reviewing her notes. The courtroom was so quiet I could hear my heartbeat. I've reviewed all the evidence, she said finally. The documentation of Miss Davis's behavior throughout the pregnancy is extensive and deeply concerning. The pattern of substance use, medical neglect, and financial irresponsibility demonstrates poor judgment and lack of regard for the child's welfare. Most troubling is the child's positive test for substance exposure at birth, direct evidence of harm caused by maternal choices. She looked at Jessica. Ms. Davies, your acknowledgement that you impersonated your sister to conceive this child speaks to a profound lack of ethical judgment. Your testimony that your sister deserved this violation is deeply disturbing. You showed no remorse, no understanding of the gravity of what you did. Your Honor, Brenner started. I'm not finished. Judge Jeffries looked at Cameron and me. Mr. and Mrs. Hartford, you conducted extensive surveillance throughout the pregnancy. While I understand the motivation, protecting a child you believed at risk, this approach was invasive and, under different circumstances, might be viewed negatively. My stomach dropped. However, she continued, New York law provides no mechanism to intervene in a pregnant woman's choices before birth. You could not legally force Miss Davies into treatment or restrict her behavior. Documentation was your only recourse, and the evidence demonstrates your concerns were, tragically, justified. She set down her papers. This case is not about wealth or revenge. It's about a child's welfare. The minor child tested positive for substance exposure at birth. His mother demonstrated throughout pregnancy she was unwilling or unable to prioritize his welfare. She has shown no genuine remorse, and her testimony suggests she views this child as a possession rather than a vulnerable infant who deserves protection. Judge Jeffries looked at each of us. Therefore, I am granting emergency custody to Mr. Cameron Hartford. He is the biological father and has demonstrated genuine concern for the child's welfare. Mrs. Jasmine Hartford may be included in the custody arrangement at Mr. Hartford's discretion. Cameron's hand found mine, gripped it tight. Ms. Davies, the judge continued, you will be granted supervised visitation rights, contingent on completing a court-ordered substance abuse treatment program and parenting classes. If you successfully complete these programs and demonstrate 1 year of sobriety and stability, we will revisit custody arrangements. Until then, physical custody remains with Mr. Hartford. Jessica made a sound, half sob, half wail. You can't do this, she said, voice rising. You can't take my baby. Ms. Davies, you lost the right to make that claim when you chose alcohol over your child's health. When you chose clubs over medical appointments. When you chose designer handbags over a crib. Judge Jeffries' voice was stern but not unkind. This door is not closed permanently. But it will require real change, real commitment to recovery and responsibility. The question is whether you're capable of that. Jessica stood, swaying. Then she turned and looked at me. I hope you're happy, she said, voice thick with tears and venom. I hope raising my son was worth destroying your own sister. I hope getting drunk was worth losing yours, I heard myself say. She flinched. Then she turned and fled the courtroom, her sobs echoing. Brenner gathered his papers. We'll appeal. You can try, Irene said calmly. But the evidence won't change. Judge Jeffries looked at Cameron and me. Mr. and Mrs. Hartford, you understand that raising this child will not be simple? He may have developmental issues from prenatal exposure. He will eventually learn about his origins, about the circumstances of his conception. These are complex challenges. We understand, Your Honor, Cameron said. We're prepared. I hope so. Her expression softened slightly. The baby can be released from the hospital into your custody as soon as the paperwork is processed. Probably this afternoon. We named him Owen. Cameron's choice, it meant young warrior, and after everything he'd already survived in his short life, it seemed fitting. The first weeks were a blur of sleepless nights, feeding schedules, pediatrician appointments. Owen showed clear signs of withdrawal. He was fussy, had trouble settling, startled easily, cried more than typical newborns. The doctors monitored him closely, explaining that his development might be delayed due to prenatal exposure. It's too early to know the long-term effects, Dr. Patel told us at his 2-week checkup. We'll watch him closely. Some babies catch up completely. Others have lasting developmental challenges. I expected it to be harder than it was emotionally. Expected to look at him and see Jessica, see the violation, see everything that had been stolen from us. But when I held him, all I saw was a baby. Cameron's son. Innocent, vulnerable, deserving of love. It didn't happen overnight. There were moments in those early weeks when I'd be feeding him at 3 a.m., exhausted and overwhelmed, and I'd think, this is my sister's child. The baby she conceived through fraud and cruelty. How can I love him? But then he'd grip my finger with his tiny hand, or make that little sighing sound babies make when they're content, and the doubts would fade. He wasn't Jessica's weapon anymore. He was just Owen. Our son. Cameron struggled too, in different ways. The guilt of what Jessica had done to him mixed with the fierce protective love he felt for Owen created a complicated emotional landscape. We continued therapy with Dr. Cheryl Francis twice a week, individual and couple sessions, working through the trauma. It's okay to love him and still be angry about how he came to exist, Dr. Francis told us. Those feelings aren't mutually exclusive. Jessica didn't appeal. She entered the court-ordered treatment program, and for the first 2 months, we heard nothing from her. Then, in September, her lawyer contacted Irene requesting supervised visitation. She's completed the initial phase, Irene told us. The court order grants her the right to see Owen under supervision. Cameron and I talked about it for hours. Despite everything, we agreed to one visit. For Owen's sake, so he could know his biological mother someday if he chose. The first visit was in October. Jessica arrived at the Neutral Visitation Center with blonde hair freshly styled, makeup done, wearing new clothes. She looked like she always had, put together, focused on appearances. The supervisor led her into the room where we waited with Owen, now 3 months old. Jessica's face softened when she saw him. "He's beautiful," she said, reaching for him. I handed Owen over carefully, watching as she held him for the first time since the hospital. She looked at him, cooed at him, but something felt off, performative. She never asked how he was doing. Never asked about his health, his development, whether he'd had lasting effects from the exposure. She just held him like a prop, smiling. After 10 minutes, she looked up at us. "I'll need money to add a nursery to my apartment. For when Owen comes to stay with me." Cameron and I exchanged glances. "Jessica," I said carefully, "unsupervised visits are a long way off. You'd need to complete your program, maintain sobriety for a year, demonstrate stability." "I'm in the program. I'm doing what they asked." Her voice had an edge now. "I'm his mother. He should be able to stay with me." "Not yet," Cameron said firmly. The court was clear. "So you'll just keep him from me." "Keep my son." Her voice rose. "I need money for the nursery. 5,000 should cover it." "We're not giving you money, Jessica," I said. "That's not how this works." Her face flushed red. Of course you won't help me. You have everything and you won't even help me prepare a room for my own son, Jessica." She stood abruptly, shoving Owen back into my arms without care. He started crying, startled by the sudden movement. "This is bullshit," she spat. "You stole my baby and now you won't even let me be his mother." She stormed out without another word. Without saying goodbye to Owen. Without looking back. The supervisor looked at us sympathetically. That happens sometimes. The reality of the situation hits them. We left shaken, Owen still fussing in my arms. 2 weeks later, at 11 at night, our doorman called. "Mr. and Mrs. Hartford. Miss Davies is here. She's intoxicated and demanding to see you." We called the police. When they arrived, Jessica was in the lobby, screaming that we'd stolen her son, that she had rights, that we were keeping her baby from her. She was arrested for public intoxication and violating the terms of her treatment program. The next morning, we filed for a restraining order. The judge granted it immediately given her violation of the treatment program and the threatening behavior. She's shown she's not taking rehabilitation seriously, Irene said. This actually strengthens your custody position. We hired Richard Torres again. Within a week, his reports confirmed what we'd suspected. Subject observed at multiple nightclubs, heavy drinking, similar behavior patterns as during pregnancy. Observed with older male companion who appears to be funding activities. Subject no longer living in previously documented apartment, appears to have moved in with male companion. Jessica had found someone else to bankroll her lifestyle. And she was right back to her old patterns. The restraining order required her to stay at least 500 feet away from us and Owen. She made no further attempt at visitation. But Owen thrived. The first few months were challenging. His development was slower than typical babies. He hit milestones late, struggled with feeding, needed extra care. But by 6 months, everything changed. He's caught up, Dr. Patel said at his 6-month checkup, genuine surprise in her voice. All his developmental markers are now in the normal range. Actually, she checked her notes, he's ahead in several areas. By 9 months, Owen was pulling himself up, cruising along furniture. By 10 months, he took his first steps, earlier than average. At 11 months, he said his first word, Dada. By his first birthday, he was walking confidently, saying several words, hitting every milestone early. This is remarkable, Dr. Patel said at his 1-year checkup. Given the prenatal exposure, I expected developmental delays. But he's not just normal, he's advanced. His resilience is extraordinary. No lasting effects? Cameron asked, hardly daring to hope. I can't promise anything definitively, but based on what I'm seeing, I don't anticipate any lasting developmental issues. He's a strong, healthy, thriving little boy. I cried right there in the doctor's office. After everything, the violation, the 8 months of documenting Jessica's behavior, the fear, the guilt, the worry, Owen was okay. More than okay. He was perfect. 18 months later. Cameron and I stood in the nursery we'd been preparing for months. Soft yellow walls, a new crib next to Owen's converted toddler bed. Are you sure? Cameron asked, his hand on my stomach where our second child grew. Sure you can do this? Love 2 children? I smiled. Yes. I'm sure. This baby was ours, conceived in love, carried in peace, anticipated with joy. A little girl, due in 3 months. Owen would be 2.5 when she was born. Old enough to be a big brother, too young to remember a time before her. We'd tell him the truth eventually. When he was old enough to understand, we'd explain about Jessica, about how he came to be. But we'd also tell him how much he was loved, how hard we'd fought for him, how he'd overcome everything. Do you think we'll ever be normal? Cameron asked. A normal family. I thought about everything we'd been through, the violation, the custody battle, the therapy, the restraining order, the slow healing of our marriage. I think we're already normal, I said. Just not in the way we planned. From down the hall, we heard Owen wake from his nap, calling out. Not crying, just announcing his presence. Mama, Dada. We're coming, buddy, Cameron called back. We walked down the hall together to get our son. The son who'd come from tragedy but was surrounded by love. Who'd overcome prenatal exposure through pure resilience. Who bore the genetic legacy of violation but none of its stain. Who was, simply and completely, ours. Behind us, the yellow nursery waited for his sister. Ahead of us, Owen grinned from his bed, arms up, wanting to be held. And in that moment, standing in the doorway with my husband, about to pick up our son, preparing for our daughter, having survived the worst violation imaginable, I realized something. Jessica hadn't won. She'd tried to destroy us, tried to take our happiness, our marriage, our future. But instead, she'd given us Owen. Had forced us to fight for something we didn't know we needed. Had made us stronger, more resilient, more grateful for what we had. We'd survived. More than survived, we built a family from the wreckage. And that was victory enough. Come on, I said to Cameron, smiling. Our son is waiting. We walked into Owen's room together, ready for whatever came next together.
Thank you for watching. Subscribing is free, so don't miss what's coming next. Hit like, if betrayal has ever touched your life. Subscribe if you've tasted revenge, or wished you had, because every episode, someone new takes this seat, and their truth might be the one you've been waiting to hear. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. And don't forget to tell us where in the world you're listening from. Let's stay connected.